hey there, guys. How you guys doing today on this lovely Monday afternoon? Gotta love Mondays, right? You know, everybody loves the beginning of the week, right? Yeah, I know, I'm not crazy about them either. But I was hearing something interesting here, and it had some thoughts kind of running through my head, and I'm like, you know, I should, you know, let me turn the phone on and you know, make a video talking about it. So there is a group apparently that is looking to they started the process to try to get the Arizona Coyotes back into the NHL. Now, it is a process that I guess it started a while back, but they've named Shane Doan's wife, Josh Doan's mother, as the head of this committee to try and bring the Arizona Coyotes back to Arizona. Now, some people had kind of wondered, because Shane Doan was the face of the Arizona Coyotes. He was the face of that franchise. He started when that team was still in Winnipeg. He spent his entire career there. So he spent his whole career in Winnipeg/Arizona. And yes, they were very sad when the Coyotes left and all that. But the reasons why the Coyotes left, we all know. They couldn't get a building. They never had owners that were worth a damn, honestly. And they just, you know, it didn't work. It did not work. No matter what they tried, they couldn't turn a profit. Nothing worked there. You know, and it's not saying that fans weren't, you know, that there wasn't enough fans. No, there were fans. It just, so many different factors, you know, no building, no real ownership that knew what the hell they were doing. And now they have Shane Doan's wife in charge of this committee. Now again, some people would say, why isn't Shane running this? He can't. He is currently employed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, if he were to go and say, you know, no, I want to head this up, he'd have to quit his job with Toronto. You can't do both. He can't subsequently work for the Toronto Maple Leafs and be in charge of this committee to try to bring the Arizona Coyotes back. That's a little bit of a conflict of interest, I would say. So he can't do it. So who steps up? His wife. His wife steps up to do it. Now, there is a lot that's going to go into this. They definitely, this is not going to be a quick process by any stretch of the imagination. To me, I think this is still going to take years. This is still years away, because there's so much that has to be done. Not to mention the fact that there are other markets that want to get into the NHL. And Phoenix, you know, Arizona/Phoenix, whether or not they try to build this arena, which apparently they are looking at land. They're certainly not looking at land in Glendale. That ain't happening. But where they're gonna go, what they would do, or where they could go, I don't know. But I mean, what they have to find, they need to find an owner an ownership group with some very deep pockets, because that's what it's going to take. Even if the NHL, because apparently the NHL is going to set the the expansion fee at $2 billion. Okay, so even though the expansion fee could be $2 billion, okay, the Arizona Coyotes are, quote, inactive. So, okay, you don't have to worry about paying a $2 billion expansion fee. We'll give you a 50% discount on that and give you a $1 billion reactivation fee. Okay, fine. How much is the building going to cost? And the arena district? It's basically going to be $2 billion probably anyway. Because you got to think, a brand new building, and you want to build an arena district around there with bars, restaurants, nightlife, whatever, businesses, whatever else you can think of for an arena district to put around the arena, that's going to be $1 billion probably. So you're still going to be paying $2 billion no matter what. But then you still have to worry about where you fit. Where do you fit? At what point does this happen? I don't see this happening for a long time yet. Long time. I'm talking at least probably 10 years, if not more. Because you still have Houston who wants to get into the NHL. You have Atlanta who wants to get back into the NHL for a third time. And you still have, even though I know the NHL is most likely never going to do it, I still think Quebec City deserves another bite at the apple. And that's another thing that gets me, is the fact that, I'm perfectly fine with Houston. If Houston gets a team, cool. They've never had an NHL team. They've had a WHA team. They've had, the Minnesota Wild, their former AHL affiliate was in Houston, the Houston Aeros. They've had hockey in Houston before. They've just never had an NHL team in Houston. Could Houston work? I think it could. I think it definitely could. You've got a guaranteed in-state rivalry with the Dallas Stars. That could be a lot of fun, especially you put them in the same division, because of course they'd be in the same division. That would be a ton of fun. But again, you're talking a $2 billion expansion fee here. I don't know if the owners of a potential Houston franchise would want to pay that much. That's a lot of money. That's a ton of money. Oh my God, that's a ton of money. But I'd be okay with Houston. I'd be plenty okay with Houston if they want to get in. The ones I have an issue with Atlanta, even though there are two groups in Atlanta right now that are trying to put together a plan to bring a team back to Atlanta. Now, the NHL has already told these two groups, you need to have a fully bulletproof, detailed plan before we even think about entertaining the idea of bringing a team back to Atlanta. Which I commend the NHL for doing that, because we've seen what's happened with Atlanta twice. On two occasions, they've lost their teams. Now, I understand the Atlanta Thrashers, bad ownership, and they lost the building. That didn't have anything really to do with the fans, even though the fans didn't really show up a lot. But then again, the Atlanta Thrashers were never that good of a team. They had one decent year. And even that year, they didn't draw that well. And so, but if you get a decent building, good ownership group, and you have a halfway decent team, I think they could draw. They could. I don't like the idea of Atlanta getting a third bite at the apple And I certainly don't exactly like the idea of the Phoenix/Arizona Coyotes getting a second bite at the apple before Quebec City gets a second chance. Hey, we're all for a second chance with Arizona. We're all for a third chance with Atlanta, but Quebec, not really. Now I understand the NHL's hesitancy on going back to Quebec. It's not a huge market. I get that. It's not the size of Houston. It's not the size of Atlanta. It certainly isn't the size of Phoenix, Arizona. So, I mean, I understand that. I understand the idea of, advertisers and that, not being huge there. But again, the thing that I say that gives Quebec a leg up on all these other places, they already have a ready-made building and a fan base that will support them. A fan base that will bring in an arena, they will bring in 18,000 fans every home game. That will happen. But again, why wouldn't they go back to Quebec? Unfortunately, the Canadian dollar, I think, is a big reason why. The Canadian dollar, I believe, right now is 72 cents. 72 cents, compared to the American dollar. It's 72 cents. That's not good. That is not good. When the Nordiques left, the Canadian dollar, I believe, I've tried to find this. I've tried to find exactly how much the Canadian dollar was worth back in the 90s when the Nordiques and the Jets left. And there was talk of the Oilers potentially leaving and Calgary. I mean, it was entirely possible back in the 90s. We only would have had 2 Canadian teams. You would have had Toronto and you would have had Montreal. That would have been it. It was that tight. And I don't know what the Canadian dollar was worth, but I do think it was worth more than it is now. Again, I can't be positive on that. But I fully understand why the NHL would be hesitant. Because you do not want to put a team back in Quebec and then because of the Canadian dollar in another 10 years have to yank them again. I fully understand it. I get it. But that fan base deserves a second bite at the apple, I believe. Will it happen? I don't know. But the thing with Arizona, like I said, I still think it's going to be at least 10 years before they even think about a team. Because there's so much that's going to go into that. And if the NHL is being that what the hell is the word I'm looking for? Scrutinizing of Atlanta, making sure that Atlanta has a ready-made plan before they even think about stepping back in there. I would think they'll do the same thing with Arizona. They will be they'll be very scrutinizing. And you have to be. You have to be. And I fully understand the Arizona Coyotes. They still have, it's still, if a team comes back there, they can still be called the Arizona Coyotes. But when you look at the franchise histories, the Arizona Coyotes, they're still linked with Winnipeg, and they're linked with Utah. The Utah Mammoth franchise history started out in Winnipeg, moved to Arizona, and is now in Utah. You go and you look at the history of the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars franchise history starts right here in Minnesota. Same with the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche franchise history starts in Quebec City. You know, whenever a team is relocated, that's where the franchise history basically still is there with that team. So the Utah Mammoth, that franchise started as the Winnipeg Jets, then became the Phoenix/Arizona Coyotes, and is now the Utah Mammoth. So where this goes, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure, but the talk is there, and I don't know. We'll definitely see what happens, but I still think it's going to be at least another 10 years before anything gets done, because again, you have to find an owner with deep pockets. You have to find land to build the arena on. Then you got to build the arena. You got to put forth the money to build the arena. And then if the NHL deems it worthy enough, okay, now we'll reactivate you. Oh, by the way, that's $1 billion, please. On top of probably at least $1 billion that you're going to have to spend on a brand new arena and an arena district. So, yeah, here's $1 billion for that, and the NHL, okay, here's the team, $1 billion, please. At least. They might not have to pay the full $2 billion expansion fee, but I'll bet your reactivation fee will be $1 billion. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah. So there is a process going on right now to, as I said, hoping to eventually bring the Arizona Coyotes back to the NHL. I still think it's going to be a long time coming. But again, I think there are a couple other teams or a couple other places that deserve to have a team way before Arizona gets another crack at it, and way before Atlanta gets another crack at it. Houston, I'm perfectly fine with, because they've never had an NHL team. They'll have a built-in rivalry with the Dallas Stars. That could be a lot of fun. So I'm plenty fine with Houston getting an NHL team. But to me, my opinion, Quebec City deserves another shot before Arizona and before Atlanta. I don't care about market size or anything. I'm talking just purely fan base, fan perspective, fan turnout. Quebec City deserves to have a team, my opinion, way before Phoenix and Atlanta deserves a second and third bite at the apple. Quebec deserves a second chance too. But again, I see why the NHL is hesitant to do it. But yeah, only time will tell. And yeah, so let me know though what you guys think. Do you think at some point do the Coyotes ever come back? Do you think they can find an owner with deep enough pockets to not only make this happen, to find land, spend over $1 billion on a brand new arena and an arena district, and then have to pay another $1 billion to reactivate the franchise? Do they find an owner with deep enough pockets? When might that happen? When could they come back? I mean, it's 2025. We're going to be coming into 2026. I don't see anything happening till at least probably, I mean, this is the 25-26 season. Earliest, 2035, 36, maybe? But again, time will tell. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Hit that like button. Only takes a second. Definitely helps out the channel. The algorithm likes it. Hit that subscribe button too. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated. That way you can see any new video that comes up. You can tune into it. And when you hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell. That will notify you anytime future videos of mine are uploaded. And if you're bored and you see one of my videos, coming to your notifications, be like, hey, I want to watch that. Go ahead and hit that, and you can definitely view it. So yeah, subscribe to the channel. Also, it would be awesome to hit that share. Share the videos. Hit the share button. You can share it with you can share it with friends, family, whoever. The door to Larry's House of Hockey is always open for anybody to come in. The house welcomes everyone, and yeah. So I just kind of had these few little random thoughts, and maybe a little bit of ranting in there, but yeah. Do the Coyotes ever come back? Is that a thing? Do they come back anytime within the next 10 years? What do you guys think? And are a lot of you guys like me? Do you think that regardless of market size, do you think Quebec City deserves a second chance before Arizona gets a second chance or Atlanta gets a third? Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, share the videos. I will see you guys later.